You're starting. So what I always do at the beginning of the show is I check on my LinkedIn to make sure, and there's a 10-second delay that we're going through because you never know. I was mentioning to Ben, which is our guest speaker today, that last time we had one, it was 207, almost 300 people registered, and the API for LinkedIn broke. And so there's pretty much nothing we could do about that. Oh, there you go. I see the little live going there.
Woo!
All right, we are live, and we just put this together. I think yesterday. So I've been so busy with I have the software thing going on and that I had it on the calendar, but you know what I screwed up? I didn't add your email to it. So I was doing things wrong. So my apologies for that. So we're working, and it's really exciting. And today we have a very special guest speaker. I met you, I think, I want to say 2 months ago, and we had a very frank conversation. And I like
100%.
those. And I was amazed because I was looking at some of the podcasts and some of the things that you were doing, some of the events that you were doing, and you had these huge names for these guest speakers. And I wanted to know the secret. It was really for me, but I said if I can share it with the audience, I would love it. So I'm Troy, the not so boring LinkedIn guy, and today we have Ben Albert, and he has Grow Getters going on. I saw that on the main link. So could you tell us a little bit about what you do to give us a synopsis, and then we can get right into it.
I do lots of things to really simplify it for everybody. Everything I do is around one basic concept: getting the knowledge, the wisdom, the services, the solutions, the help from
Mm-hmm.
the folks who have it to the folks who need it. Getting the wisdom, the knowledge, the answers from people that got it to people that are looking for it. And you mentioned Grow Getters. That's a way that I can have a monthly networking event and an exclusive community, peer to peer support, public speakers come in and teach the group.
Mm-hmm.
The podcast Real Business Connections is a free source to share knowledge. I'm learning every single day, so I'm sharing my guests with my community and my listeners. And then Balber Marketing is B2B service-based businesses. It's helping them get their service to people that need their service. So really, to simplify it, I'm a connector. I like to see
Mm.
myself as a bridge. And I don't always have the perfect answer. So I'm insatiably curious and always looking for better ways to optimize, implement, and get better. And that's why I'm excited to be with my people. Troy, man, you're the same way. So
Yeah, I try. There's certain things I don't do well that I'm forcing myself to do. For example, I'm a bit of an introvert, so it's a one-on-one conversation with people chatting. It's a very comfortable environment, but a lot of times I don't like individual networking, so I'm making myself go out there because, to be honest, do I want to meet a bunch of people I don't want to know? And so you have to get past that mindset and see that opportunity. And then a lot of the deals and the relationships build a lot faster and in person, no matter what kind of system you have. So systems are there to help. Connecting people are there to help, but you have to put it in a way and design it where it's very personalized to get information from person A to person B that can actually use it. And I think that's what you're mentioning here. But one of the main thing is that I want to figure out, or I want you to tell us your secret sauce on how you get the attention of some of these top level leaders, either for conversation purposes or for their podcast or a show like this. What's your secret? Because you do very well in that area, and you almost float on a cloud, so to speak. And so those are the things that I really, really, really want to know. And then at the end, I would like you to provide your link, either your LinkedIn URL or anything that they could actually look at that they would like, and then you can go back to the chat and we can add it to the a little bit later as well.
yeah, easy peasy, man.
Yeah.
It's I'm gonna tell you something that Lewis Howes told a group at his Lewis Howes School of Greatness, one of the biggest podcasts in the world. He puts on a summit called the Summit of Greatness, and he did a Q&A, and someone raised their hand and basically said, I had my first big keynote. I got a standing ovation. I'm really excited. I'm hoping that I can get on your podcast.
Hmm.
And with all respect, like Lewis's episodes get hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views. Whoop-de-doo, you just had your first keynote. You haven't built anything worth getting his attention just yet. But what he said was continue what you're doing, show proof of concept over a longer time horizon, keep doing what you're doing at a high level for years, and then I almost guarantee your information will land at my desk and I'll look at it. Or usually what happens is I notice without anyone ever having to mention it to me. Now, a lot of people don't want to hear that, but stage 0, and you don't need to put 10 years into it, but stage 0 is start doing something worth attention. If you want
Good
attention of
point.
top leaders, you need to do something worth attention. And everybody takes, when you get in trouble, they take your fingerprint when you get in trouble. Why do they take your fingerprint? Because everybody has a unique fingerprint. So you do have unique gifts. Are you going to build a LinkedIn personal brand? Are you going to start a podcast? Are you going to start a blog? Are you going to start events? Are you going to write a book? What are you going to do, and how are you going to have people be a part of it? Because a lot of people say, hey, I didn't even say words right now, but that's what they sound like because they don't have a mission, vision, value. They don't understand the purpose around what they're doing. They don't understand their unique fingerprint. So we can
Right.
dissect any little piece you want, but I have a podcast. It started as a Rochester, New York podcast. I reached out to Rochester, New York business leaders, and it wasn't until about 100 episodes that I rebranded it international. But as a Rochester, New York business podcast, as a State University, New York, SUNY Brockport alumni, I reached out to other alumni business leaders and asked them to be on my Rochester business podcast to highlight local leaders. I had a very clear vision on what I was doing, why I was doing, who I wanted to feature, and it was easier for people to say yes because they understood the why behind what I do. And honestly, I hadn't proved anything yet, but I didn't have the biggest thought leaders on earth on day one.
Yeah.
I had to work my way up there, and I love the
Well, I
comments.
got
Keep them
a
coming,
couple
y'all. Keep them
messages
up.
are coming in. It's like Miranda, she's on one of the paired accounts on yours. Shout out to ROC,
Yeah.
and then a solid pod, good knowledge. Andrews mentioned that. So thank you very much. And hey, if you are watching, just to say hi, feel free. I know this is more of a pop-up. We just posted it yesterday. But I was told by my podcast people that you need to do more than one a month. And I'm like,
Yes,
I
sir.
can't really market that. So I said, Ben, would you want to sit on this podcast? Because there's a lot of good knowledge that you can explain. And what I'm hearing is that there's two sides to this. There's like, if, for example, if you have a podcast, we'll use that or a show, we'll use those for example. There's a particular reason to have that show. And that particular reason or vision or purpose will attract the right people. And if they're already attracted to that, you reaching out to them makes a higher probability of a yes and them to provide value to your conversation or to the brand or whatever it is. So I think you're telling me that a lot of people are saying a whole lot of nothing. And the reason why they're saying a lot of nothing is because they don't really know what they're about. They don't have a special thing that's going to attract their particular audience. And I was actually thinking about this. So mine's called The Troy Show because I'm Troy. I thought it was pretty easy, but I also have a newsletter called The Most Interesting Things and People to Know. And that blew up real quick. And I'm thinking maybe I should change the name to my show / podcast, The Most Interesting Things and People to Know, because that covers a lot of interesting areas. So you're actually enforcing some of the ideas that I'm actually trying to bring across. because I want to bring people on my podcast to actually help those individuals. So if you're thinking about getting a podcast, we need to figure out why your podcast is so special. And whatever that special thing is, how is that going to attract those special people, you know? And I think I did a show, it must have been 2 years ago. And what was her name? I can't remember her name, but she did Learning Without Borders.
Mm-hmm.
And she told us that her podcast, I think she produces something, and it was at the time, I don't know, I know she makes a lot more, but something like 50K a month. But it's a lot of work. And that's the other part. A lot of people are not willing to put the work in. And I don't want to say that people are lazy, but I'm blunt. I'm a blunt speaker. I think everyone's lazy to a certain point,
Oh
but
yeah.
you have to shift it where you can afford to be lazy, and then just enjoy the stuff that you love to do. So people said, just do what you love, but honestly, you have to do the things you have to do first in
Yeah.
order to do the things that you love, you know. So you're reaching out to these people that are really top leaders and known in their industry. And so when you reach out to them, it may not come across their desk. They may ask you, but the third option is you to reach out to them. If you had to reach out to that individual to be a guest speaker, how would you do that?
Yeah, and first off, you're talking to the laziest person on earth. Everyone who knows me would disagree, but I'm all about optimal. I joke all the
That's a better
time.
word than what I
I,
chose.
I joke all the time. What, Troy, what's the best way to get rich? What's the best way to get successful? The best way to get rich is quick. However, 99% of
The
those
best way, but not the realist.
exactly,
It's
99
possible, but not probable.
exactly. But it looks like it happens quick when you do the foundation that gets you to that place where a long enough time horizon, it does happen quickly, but you have to build a foundation to make that possible. So
Well, let's hold
we could
that
break
thought.
that down. Yeah.
Yeah, hold that thought. And let's say we're starting a business, podcast, whatever it is, right? High value business, right? And I don't want to goof around. I want to do this seriously. And so, what I tend to think about is those foundational items. Who am I? What am I
Mm-hmm.
about? Who do I serve? Right? And how, when whoever I serve, how do I convert that into monetary? Right? So let's be honest. No one likes to talk about it, but at the end of the day, this is a business. So how do I serve someone and get paid for it? Well, you can serve a lot of people, but if you're serving people that don't want to invest time or money into it, it's it's almost a fruitless business, fruitless to the perspective of you paying your bills. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying it's fruitless, but I'm saying that you have to have a business model around it. So I would think those foundational things are first. And so now you say, well, I have this business and I'm converting and I'm trying to bring these right people in. Now goes in the real question is like, say, Ben, you have this podcast. What are you offering, you specifically, for a particular uh, guest speaker? So a guest speaker would come on your show and talk about their expertise. Why would they do that? I know you have proven yourself, but can you give me a real world example?
It's funny because the why and the analytics and the long conversation doesn't happen 9 times out of 10. I mean, why? I've got a listenership of entrepreneurial and intrapreneurial business professionals. They're
Mm-hmm.
revenue driven, they're growth driven, they want skills, they want mindset, they want tactics, but they also really want like the stories and the
Mm-hmm.
nuances. So if
Mm-hmm.
someone has accomplished, a lot of these people aren't that much farther behind than my guest. The
Mm-hmm.
guest is just one step along. So the guest is
Mm-hmm.
speaking to their prior self. The guest is speaking to their clients. The guest is speaking to the people that will subscribe to their podcast, read their book. I usually don't really even have to get into this big why, though, Troy.
Mm-hmm.
I just name drop Chris Do is an example who's I recorded. He's about to be on the podcast. He founded The Future. He's got millions and millions of followers. Blows my mind that he said yes, but I had gotten to a point where I name dropped people that I knew Chris knew. I had already brought
So you did your
podcasts.
research, in other words,
100%.
and
Yeah,
you knew people he knew, and you were already in a circle. So that's really important to think about. So I wouldn't name drop someone that I don't necessarily know, but if I was in their network and I talked to them, it's that 3 degrees type of situation. I guess it's
right.
only 1 degree at that point. But so
If Troy thinks that Ben's okay, he must not be that bad.
mm,
And I was an
mm,
entrepreneurial once, so I'm willing to put my chips on Ben.
mm-hmm,
And if he delivers, now here's the key, another nuance. You have to deliver. You have to create a good podcast, a good product. You have to do good promotion. You
mm-hmm,
want to master your craft. But if you do and can deliver, you can ask people for nominations and they'll make introductions for you. You
mm-hmm,
can name drop a previous guest and that'll provide social proof. You can ask your guests for reviews and testimonials that'll further the social proof. So there's a lot that's going into it, and
mm-hmm.
I know it just dived in there, but there's
Yeah, yeah.
so much going into it, and it doesn't happen overnight, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about so this particular show will get X amount of replays and things like that. But we just set it up yesterday, so we didn't have much runway, right?
Hmm.
And we both said let's just do it, let's get it on there and get a good feeling for it, and just get it done. But let's talk logistics. I had during my previous show, we talked to Sarah at Podcasting, right?
Mm.
So she's really great lady and we broke down the logistics. So, as far as a podcast, the first thing that you said was very important. Understand what you're doing and why you're doing it and who you're serving, and is there a business model around that if you're doing that for business? So, you create that thing, and that thing is attracting certain type of people. So, you deal with entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs, and they're hungry, and so you picked a very good market because everyone's hungry to succeed. And you bring guests on that are one or two or three or four steps ahead, whatever it is. And they're looking for
Sometimes,
that next step.
sometimes, sometimes they're peers.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're not any farther ahead, but they're a case study of the journey. So to really simplify, a plus is a mentor, a
Mm-hmm.
minus is a mentee, an
Mm-hmm.
equal is a peer. If you
Mm-hmm.
bring on
Mm-hmm.
pluses, mentors, thought leaders, if you bring on equals, peers, other people in the grind with you, and you bring
Mm-hmm.
on minus, mentees, prospects, clients, those are the people you want to bring on to your podcast, to your live event, in your
Mm-hmm.
book. It doesn't have to be a podcast. These are just channels. You have an event, you want to invite peers, you want to invite prospects, and you want to invite mentors. So if you have a list of plus, minus, and equals, mentors, peers, and prospects. I said those in out of order. That's why I stumbled there.
It's totally fine. You're a much smoother talker than I am. So,
I think you're fantastic, and it's really that simple. It's not that complicated. But if you have clarity and you understand the purpose, I wrote down 6 things. We've already touched on a lot of them, but can I just go through this super quickly?
I would love to hear it.
So stage 0 we already touched on is do something worth receiving attention. And we already talked on like a unique fingerprint. You just do something that's never been done before because you've never done it before. Like you can document
Well,
your journey.
that makes everything exciting, doesn't it?
Yeah, you just
Think about it. You're energized by this thing that you're doing, and they're energized. It's the fact that you're energized because it's
yes.
something new. You
And
know.
all you're doing is documenting the journey. I didn't get on LinkedIn day 1 and say I'm a LinkedIn expert. I got on LinkedIn day 1 and said I want to learn from the LinkedIn experts. Here's a podcast where I can. So phase 0 is just do something worth receiving attention. Stage 1 is creating that vision, purpose of what you're doing. Put together your plus, your minus, your equals. Understand who you want to learn from, who you want to collaborate with. Stage 2 is never let a good opportunity pass. And this
Mm-hmm.
is whether or not you're starting something. If I listen to a podcast, I don't reach out to the host every single time because then they think I'm a stalker. But if
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to a podcast, I reach out to the host and the guest every single time, 100% every single time on the guest.
Mm-hmm.
Because one podcast is 3 episodes a week. I can DM 3 people a week saying, Troy, I loved your insight on X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
Congrats on accomplishing this. Let me know how I can support you. And I'm just sending DMs all day. People are on TikTok all day. They're watching videos all day. They're listening to podcasts, but they're not showing love to the creator. And
Yeah.
sometimes all you have to do is show love to the creator. The creator sees that you're up to something. You have a podcast, you have an event, you have a marketing thing. They see what you're up to, and then when you make an ask, it's easy peasy. But you need to make connections. And at the end of the day, if Troy doesn't accept my connection request,
It wasn't. It
there.
wasn't worth it, or it wasn't meant to be for now. Anyway.
So real simple. I'll go through these last ones quick. 3, you start name dropping people that they know once you have built a foundation. I can say, hey, Troy, I thought you'd be interested too. I mean, we've already had X, Y, and Z on, so I thought you might be a good fit as well. Or even
Mm-hmm.
better, you get an introduction, and
Mm-hmm.
then they've basically already bridged the gap for you. So you get the introduction is a huge way to do it. Then after you created something, we're talking about a podcast, but it can be anything. You do a
Yeah.
podcast with someone, get a testimonial from them because the
Wow, that's a
testimonial.
very good point.
And
Yeah.
I like to do it on the spot during an emotional high. I tell this to service-based contractors all the time. Why are you sending someone an email 6 months down the road? Why don't you ask them for that review on your tablet on the spot as soon as the roof looks beautiful, gorgeous, and we're just loving on it? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I ask my guests for a testimonial the day of, on the spot, while we already hit record, because you take those testimonials and you can build a speaking kit with it. You can build
Mm-hmm.
social proof with it. There's a million ways. If you're a marketer, if you know marketers, ask a marketer what to do with my testimonials. There's a million things you can do with it.
Oh yeah, and
Let,
there are, and we'll just name a couple real quick.
yeah,
I'm working with a business developer, so I help people convert on LinkedIn, right? So one of the things they need a foundation. We redo their profile. We get
hmm
their testimonials. We tell them how to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Sometimes they'll have a what do they call it? A piece where it acts as a magnet. So they have
like a
a
lead magnet.
yeah, a lead magnet, and we'll develop a document and we'll fit in the little testimonials and the video testimonials in there. And so, like you said, there's a million ways to do it. I even have a document that has all my testimonials in there. Yeah, I got, on my LinkedIn profile, there's 50 people in there that said good stuff. So if, like you said, if they said it's good stuff, it's good enough for them, it's good enough for the prospect. And so, yeah, there's lots of different ways that you can use testimonials. Other people tooting your horn is much more powerful than you tooting your own horn.
The, we talked about this. What was the name of the newsletter again that you
The
have?
most, it's a LinkedIn newsletter, the most interesting people and things to know. And I'll put the link in the chat as soon as we're done. But the first time I launched it, it was on a Friday evening, like the worst time. It's the worst time to launch. We did it, and immediately we had 400 subscribers. By Monday, we had 1,100. I think now we have right at 3,000. That's pretty
Wow,
good.
it's good. Yeah,
And I think it had to do with the title you
yeah.
know and when we're creating these newsletters, it's really about things and people. It could be my thing or their thing, or it could be interesting about how that person becomes successful in the areas where they shine.
It's a perfect example. Zig Ziglar, the great Zig Ziglar,
Yeah.
always said the best way to get what you want is to give others what they want. The
Yes.
best way to promote yourself is to promote another person. The best way to win friends and influence people is to make friends and basically amplify them. If you
Hmm.
have a newsletter amplifying people, if you have a podcast, an event, you have something that amplifies others, they're going to become advocates for what you do as well. without you really asking. Like, there's a lot of psychology behind it, law of reciprocity. But
Hmm.
again, if you
Hmm.
want to market yourself, get really good at marketing others, and then they'll become cheerleaders without you even really having to ask. There's two things
Well,
to
that's an
close.
authentic way of doing it. And,
100%.
and, and that's one thing that people forget. They're very emotionless. Like I'm a very straight shooter. I have a poker face all the time. I don't really show my anger. So it's a little harder for people to like read me. But if I do things that helps other people, they say, Troy put effort, or Ben put effort into this. I like Ben because they're not going to work with you or be your cheerleader unless they like you. And I'm
Right.
sorry, I think you ended at number 3. You had,
I
or
don't
was
know
it
what
4?
number. So to read this real quick, I wrote down notes because when I was preparing, we did this on the spot, man. I'm like, I want to create a system. I created the system for this chat. We talked about be worth receiving attention, create a vision, purpose for what you do. You have a unique fingerprint, so use that. Never let a good opportunity pass. So always be connecting to people that are in the same world as you, that you'd like to help, that you'd like to learn from. Then name drop when you're making the ask. That's
Mm-hmm.
hard to do at the front, but as you
Mm-hmm.
go, you can name drop previous people that have been on. Then get testimonials from the
Mm-hmm.
people you've collaborated with. Ask them for nominations because who doesn't want to nominate someone and who doesn't want to be nominated?
Mm-hmm.
So if you say, hey, Tori, I'm looking for some referrals today, referrals is not like we're talking about human behavior here. We're talking about
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah.
Referrals just seem so transactional.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
nomination is something I'm excited to give. I'd love to
Yeah.
nominate someone for your new program, Troy. So you
Yeah.
get nominations. It's easy to meet these people because they came through an introduction. And the last part is to rinse and repeat,
Mm-hmm.
to continue to level up every single day. Continue doing things that are worth receiving attention.
Yeah.
Continue not letting good opportunities pass.
Yes.
Continue. You have to continue doing this
It's like
because
anything, you have to do it
100%.
all the time. It's like working out, eating healthy, speaking at events, you name it. It takes practice, and the more practice you have, the better that you are in general. I would add one other
Please.
thing. You said don't let a good opportunity pass. Well, I always say, I don't know if I always say this. I don't always say this,
We're saying
but
it today.
yeah, we're gonna say this today. If there's, when they say when opportunity knocks, you should open the door. You
Right.
know, I just say sometimes you gotta build the door.
Mm,
Or kick it down, or
mm-hmm.
because opportunities don't always, well, they present themselves, but you don't always see them. That's really it. So when you see that silver lining and that possibility, it might be worth doing because it may be different. It may be something unique that people see, like, oh, yeah, we
Right.
could do this. And I'll give an example. I had a software company that did a lot of gamification. We did Coca-Cola, Xbox Mobile, Wrigley's, candy stuff, and Harry Potter release. We did a lot of cool projects and stuff. And so I have a history of work. So I'm kind of known in IT. Even though I'm the LinkedIn guy now, I still do a lot of IT stuff, right?
Love it.
And that has opened up, that I was able to create opportunities from that. For example, do I want to spend $250,000 to build my own software? The answer is usually no.
Sure.
Like, I don't think I want to spend that kind of money, my own money, into it. I said, but it'll be great to get it done for free, but a good quality one. And people say, oh, you can't do that. Easy peasy. I said, I have an opportunity. I have a gap in the market. We already did our test, and we talked to the potential customers that had a large audience. And I brought the developers on the meeting, and I knew it was going to be a yes because I already had 2 other meetings with these other companies. The third, I'm pretty sure it'd be a yes.
Right.
And there was something that we're interested in anyway. And I said, look, we solved 2 problems. We solved the problem of the cost because we worked it out with the developer because they see the end customers. They have 10,000 and this and that, and is a gap in the market. And we also solved the problem of marketing because I don't know if anyone knows anything about software, but typically it takes at least 10 times the amount of money for your development for the marketing. And if
Mm-hmm.
you can remove those two, you save a lot of money and you're able to bring up the profits. So when I bring the developer on that third meeting, I said, just sit on the meeting. And he says, Troy, yeah, we need that thing that you have
Right.
because we couldn't solve this problem. We need that thing. I said, great. We created a alpha version. Now we're creating a B2B version of this software. All right, thanks. We'll have a meeting in 2 months. Okay, sounds great. And I talked to the developer. I said, so I kept him on the Zoom. I said, so what do you think? And he says, we're in.
Right.
That was it. So you never know what opportunities can happen unless you go for it. And I think that's one thing that we really didn't talk about is you have to wholeheartedly go for it.
Yeah.
Even if you reject it, it's okay. If you reject it 99 times, how many times do you have to get a yes on some of these opportunities? 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20, that's still a very good success rate if you
Mm-hmm.
are actually bringing the people in. So I would not focus on the no's. I would focus on how to get that yes in there. And in order to get that yes, what you mentioned was really foundational information that allowed them to be in a position for someone to say yes, because there's a gap there, and you're teaching us how to fill that gap out. What I'm saying is that a lot of people won't even go for it,
No.
and they have to get past that. They need to put that energy in there and saying, I'm going to take these steps and actually take action. Anyway, I blab a lot. Obviously, you've seen this on this podcast slash live, but those are just my thoughts on it.
I'm sure people watching at home. Do you know Jamie Kern Lima by a chance? Jamie Kern Lima. She's a fantastic New York Times bestselling author. But she started her business,
Hmm.
cosmetic products, and I forget the name of the condition, but she had a kind of rare skin condition, and she wanted to create cosmetic products for people like her. She was a little bit overweight, and
Mhm.
she wanted more women like her represented in cosmetics. And
Mm.
time after time after time again, she got no, 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 to the point where someone actually got in her face and said, no one's ever going to buy products from someone who looks like you. And she heard no. Spoiler alert, she sold her cosmetic business to L'Oreal for $1 billion. She's a billionaire.
Jeez.
But she heard no so many times. What she says is don't listen to the no, listen to the knowing. Knowing
No
that this
one.
helps you, knowing that this helps others like you,
Yeah.
and in some cases, knowing that God put you on this earth to do this thing. All the
Yeah.
no's are just bricks in the foundation of the home that she's building. She
Yeah.
doesn't take the no and throw it through the window. She's
Yeah.
going to take the no and lay the brick. Because it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if it's a success or a failure. As
Yeah.
long as you use it, there's
Yeah.
purpose. And you touched on it. Once you get that big yes, once in her case, I'm ad libbing here, but in her
Yeah.
case, she had like an infomercial slot, and they spent all their money, bought all the
Never waste an
products.
opportunity.
Oh
That's
my
that's
God.
what I'm hearing.
Never
Right.
waste an opportunity. She had an
Yeah.
infomercial slot that could have bankrupt her. They did an unreal amount of sales. And
Uh-huh.
then she just kept doing infomercial after infomercial, selling, 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 built a foundation,
Yeah,
got
because
bought
there's
for a
people
billion
like
dollars.
her, that fit her
100%.
demographic
Oh my
or have
God.
her need.
Yep.
And I always say, if there is a modeling agency of blondes, be the brunette.
Sure.
And that's exactly what she was. She was the brunette on a sea of blondes, and that's why
Mm-hmm.
she was successful. You have to
She
stand
she
out.
she could have dyed her hair. She could have got liposuction.
Hmm.
She was herself is the key here. And if everybody looks like you, maybe find a different environment.
Hmm.
She found a way to stand out.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So there's a couple of things that came through. Uh, Thank you. See, Suraj, Surag.
Siraj, yeah.
Suraj. See, I would have said it totally wrong. Suraj. Thank you, Ben. Thanks for sharing the fingerprint analogy. All right, that was actually really good. And then Daniel, great topic. I think it's excellent mindset to do the things you have to do before you can do what you love. I like that. I think I mentioned that, so he's repeating me. So
Hmm.
great, good for me. And it's a reminder of the journey to doing what you love is often paved with hard work. Yep, that's definitely true. Amy, she agrees with everything 100%. Thank you, Amy. If you don't agree, I want to hear it too. I want to hear the stuff you don't agree with so I can improve, because one thing Ben mentioned, sometimes we hear no, but it's about knowing. I think there's a little story in there. No and knowing, that means you learn from why they didn't like you, you know? So if someone says no, it might be for a reason. It might be nothing I can do anything about. It might be something I can improve. Um,
Not yet.
it may be my setup. It may be this is the wrong demographics. You name it. So you have to take those no's and see, is there any reason or anything I can learn from that no? I had a short story. I had a prospect was begging me to be a client,
Yeah.
begging, and it was handed off to someone he trusted, and I was talking to him. But the problem was I didn't have all the communications with him. So when he was on his, well, I need to convert this, this, and this, and those aren't discussions we had prior. I said, oh, I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing now and what's not working. In order for this to work, you need personalization and volume. It just happened to be whatever he needed at that point. And so I added that. He agreed. And then 2 days later, he never signed the agreement, and he wrote this long novel of why, whatever, And
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, this guy's a little. I don't like that. I'm a yes
Yeah.
or no type person. I'm not little. I'm not lukewarm, right? And so if you say yes, don't make me spend the 2 hours putting the agreements together or whatever and sending it to you and waiting for you, and you not get a response. It's very coward in my mind anyway. Maybe I have a very specific look on it, but I did read it. Although I typically don't read novels, if you know what I mean. And I took some aspects out of there. I said, four of these five things are a bunch of BS. But the fourth thing is something that I can improve on myself.
Right.
And so even a no is knowledge, like you said. And I think that's very important when you do things. Sure, I'm a little quirky and things like that, and I can do things a little better. But one thing that people like about me is that I'm just bluntly honest. And there's a market for that. We also have Daniel here. Great tips on asking testimonials and proof on the spot. Yes.
Hmm.
Build the door. Yep. Excellent. Well, I think those are all the messages that came in. But Ben, I do appreciate all the information you provided. I think it's great foundational stuff, and I think we all need foundational stuff, you know, and we need to have access to that because everyone's networks is pretty valuable. And so if someone's doing something and they come to me and they need help, I may not be the person for them. And if I'm not, I still want to help them. I said, you know what? I see what the problem is. This is how I solve the problem, but it sounds like it's work. And the person that typically solves this problem is this person. Is it okay if I send a recommendation to him and can have you connect you both? And that's how you gain trust.
I agree. Can I give you a super quick for instance as we close out here?
I would love it. Anything you have, Ben.
So, what if I were to take your image, your voice, write up a script, and have AI create a testimonial of you endorsing my company without me asking your permission. Would you like that?
Hmm.
Realistically, let's assume you hate me. Would you like me creating an AI of you endorsing me?
Probably not.
Right?
Yeah,
So
probably
a
not. A big
and
fat
this,
no.
and this is a whole nother stream, but AI is revolutionizing the world, but nothing we talked about today can be replaced by AI. Getting a
Right.
nomination, getting a testimonial, adding value in person, creating content that matters is really difficult to do just with AI. I would
It's
have to
true. Yeah, yeah,
ha-
that's a good point.
so
I
so
run across
so
that quite a bit when people think I had a meeting the other day,
yeah.
and it's one of my sales guys and sales guy partners, right?
Mhm.
And he says, "Hey, what do you think about this software? If we run this on this campaign, this and that." I said, "I'll look at it." I already know the stage of AI within software, right? I don't know the actual stage of AI in different areas, but I know it's commercialized. And I said, "Don't do it." Here's why. I said, "Because if it's a low budget thing, something that a thing that does something, sure, because there's not many questions. It's a low acquisition cost. That would work. But if you're doing high value services, high value service, I don't know what you think it is, but in my opinion, is any service that's $1,000 or above a month residual, right?
Okay.
So an IT project could be $1 million. It's a big range, but anything under a certain dollar amount is not really considered a high value, a high ticket item. And so those things take personalization. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say. That AI is good for certain things, but that's not for my software. For example, it's called Scoop, Skoop. Is there's the only AI in there is ChatGPT,
Hmm.
but it's really about creating a personalization. You spending a moment to do it, and I think that's the same scenario as being the brunette and all the blondes because they're going to appreciate that. So
Right.
did I totally dismiss your whole thing, or are we on the same page?
We're on the same page. The
Okay.
tools are fantastic. High quality tools will make the world better and make our jobs easier. I'm not a good golfer, but if you're a good golfer and you like to golf, I'm pretty sure you get clients golfing with them. There's certain human connection principles that'll never change. And
Yeah.
if you fall too far into the tech, you're not
Yeah.
going to be able to sell people on high ticket products, high value products, because they think, I could just get it cheaper elsewhere. But they'll
Yeah.
pay more money because they want Troy. They'll
Yeah.
beg for Troy. They're not going to beg for the tool, but if Troy is on that account, they'll pay more.
Yeah, they will because they'll get a higher volume of success
Right.
because it's not always you need good tech. Let's
Mm-hmm.
just say you need good tech, but you need a good foundation. And foundation is not necessarily the tech. Foundation is your strategy. How I'm going to use this tech in order to reach my current audience. We have a client right now. All the tech in the world is not going to help them. It's one
Mm-hmm.
of those accounts where they just don't respond, right? And so we have to get a human, and a human is going to take the phones and said you had a conversation. So there's a human element in there. No AI in the world is going to really help that individual out. I mean, maybe something will, but nothing that's cost effective at the moment. You know,
Can I add a asterisk to something you said?
sure.
You said they'll get more success. And let's look at a scenario. There's a high probability in some scenarios that option A and option B will deliver the same results,
Hmm.
but option B gives you a higher level of perceived success.
Good
And
point.
when two people have a similar product, it's the perception that they will reach the result. And both products might get them there, but they're going to choose the one with the higher perception of perceived success. And if they perceive they'll be successful, and if they invest, they will actually get the results. Because when people pay and when they invest, they pay attention, they get results. So
Hmm.
even if your product's exactly the same, it's
Hmm.
creating that motivation and perception of success that actually leads to better success, even if you have a commodity product.
So let's talk about that.
Sure.
What is perception? Perception, in my mind, I'll tell you what I think it is, and I want you to add, or you can argue with me. It's okay. You're not going to hurt my feelings, but I think perception is at least 90% of the decision making. Right?
Sure.
Perception. Perception is whether they like you or not.
Hmm.
Perception is whether they trust you or not. You know, this sounds good, but I don't know this thing. I know Ben. I know Ben. I know what Ben does. I know this sounds great. I would rather work with Ben
Right.
because that perception lowers the pressure on the actual client, not just on you, but the client. If he feels comfortable with working with you, um, there's a higher probability of success because an anxious client is not always the best. They interfere more
Right.
than often. I have that, hundreds and thousands of no, up to thousands of IT projects and many clients. If someone is constantly poking in when they don't, and to change something, and they're forcing a change in your system, well, sometimes it takes 3 months. I mean, just making it up. Sometimes it takes 3 months to get that traction. And if you're constantly stopping and going, that 3 months could be 9 months now. And then you lost the client because he didn't perceive that level of comfort. So
Yeah.
that's what I think perception is.
Yeah. I mean, you want to build enough trust that you're like, listen, I've got this.
Mm-hmm.
I know we want to do X, Y, and Z. We've seen in the past that for these reasons, you'll actually get less of a benefit because we're breaking the system. And
Mm-hmm.
if they trust you, they'll stay with you. The reason I'm hesitating, I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, is some people are just curious or anxious or have a lot of questions or like to
Mm-hmm.
pivot. And I want to be able to serve them too. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like they're bad people. They're just sometimes more difficult
Well,
to
different
work with than
services serve
others.
different
Yeah.
people, though.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So yeah, so if they like to pivot a lot, and then maybe they want to not a full 360 system. Maybe they want just the tools, you set it up, and they can do what they want. They probably won't
Done
be as
with you.
successful, but um
Well, there's a good point there. If you're doing a done with you service where you give them the tools, you give them the consulting, you offer some help, but they do a lot of it on their own, yeah,
mhm,
maybe they won't get as good results as you could have yourself. However, they'll learn, they'll fail, they'll get case data, they'll
mhm.
get better at. I'm a huge fan of do it
And then
yourself
they'll
because
move up to the next level. Yeah.
I
So
love knowing how to do something and
mhm,
then giving it to someone else because I have confidence they can do it better than me, but I
mhm,
still like knowing how to do it. So people just have
mhm.
different personalities, you know?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. One of the pitfalls that I ran into is, since I'm a technical person. I'm very not procedural, but I like systems,
Mhm.
and so and I think this goes along with everyone when they have a product. They sell the features and not the results.
Right.
So that's a big negative. So it's great to have features, but you want to taper down talking about the features, and you really want to talk about the success, the outcome. And I think most people want to hear the outcome. They don't care how many buttons this thing has. A lot of times they just want to know is, can I build a relationship with this person, or can I convert to this? Can it meet my goal? And that's one thing that I have struggled with, just because I like building stuff. So once you're in it, you have to realize that not everyone's in it. They may be on it
Yeah.
versus in it. And that's a lot of successful entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs. They gain success and they break the glass ceiling, the monetary glass ceiling, by learning how to let go.
Mm.
So an entrepreneur, well, especially a solopreneur, they a lot of times they get charged based on their time, or sometimes their results, but they're limited because there's not but X amount of hours in a day. And so a solopreneur has um, all these jobs, And their job really should be, how can I fire myself off of these jobs? Remove the hats, so to speak. They're wearing too many hats. And so that requires uh, getting to know someone and trusting them that they'll do their job. Of course, there are some skills that are not entirely transferable, but anything that's repeatable, they have to learn. Like, does your hand need to be in that cookie jar?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be always. I have a couple of people I have a number of people, teams that work for me, but my assistant is a good example. I told her how to get it done. And for the first few months, I was like kind of white on rice, making sure it's done. Afterwards, I don't really care as long as it gets done, because you trust that person enough, and they have enough training to get to that percentage level that you need. And no one's going to be 100% of you. Ben, I could never be you. I don't think you could be me, but I don't want to hire a me exactly, because that means I'm building my own competition. I want to build someone that wants to work with me and do the job at a certain percentage. For example, I think if you're at 100%, say you're really high quality, do you expect your assistant to be at that quality? Is that realistic? It's not. So sometimes you have to deal with 70% quality, because if you're very good at what you do and they're providing 70% quality, it's still much better than the majority of the people out there. So there's no one going to do certain things as good as you, because you're the business owner. And so I think a lot of people have to understand that, and say, well, I have a business, because most people won't even know. You may know, but most people, they won't, because they see the product is good. It does what it needs to do.
Yeah, I have so many thoughts. We could go all day, but when I hear 170, I have a general philosophy. People hire a 50 because it's cheaper,
Yeah.
but then you don't get the results that if you had hired a 90. So
Yeah.
I'm already looking for people that are built for work. I'm looking to hire
Mhm.
people that have accomplished what I'm trying to have them accomplish before, or have the potential. So if they're a 70 in this scenario, they have potential to be 110. They might even
Oh
be better
yeah.
than me long term.
Oh
But
yeah.
I learned this the hard way.
Mhm.
Spent a lot of money on trash. And nowadays, I'm willing to pay premium if
Mhm.
I know that someone is built for success already.
Mhm.
We already talked about this prior, but that's why some people come in really cheap and some people might have more of a premium price point.
Mhm.
Sometimes the premium price point's just a crappy person charging too much, but that's besides the point. Off, Oftentimes it's premium for a reason, and that can go into hiring, that can go into partnering, that can go
Well, they can
into
also go
services,
into
all of it,
getting better clients.
right?
If you're charging more, you're perceived, as a higher value service. And if you have, for example, let's talk about marketing, right? If someone needs help and they need a full system, right? Like a
Mm-hmm.
full, they need the callers, they need the closers, they need the BDR, SDRs convert, they need the systems, they need the volume, they need someone to reply as their assistant or as the client, they need conversions and stuff. That's not cheap. That's not one person. That's a team of people. People say, oh, it's so expensive. I said, look, if you had a really good sales guy, just this really good sales guy, how much would it cost to have a really good? One of my buddies is a sales guy, and he does server stuff, or I'm
Yeah,
not even sure what he does, but he pulls in $250,000 a year.
yeah.
That's one job, right?
I was gonna say the best salesperson will cost you the most amount of money and simultaneously make you the most amount of money at the same time.
Right. And they say, well, 5,000, 7,000 is way too much money. I said, but you're one person. It's going to cost you more than the whole team. And
Mm-hmm.
so then you realize that, what? Maybe this client is not built for success and they cannot understand. So that's why they have lower services, because the lower end services are functional allow them to get where they need to go,
Right.
and then they can learn that, oh, I need this, I can add on this, and so they can kind of grow into that dream client. And but the lower end services have very little issues because it's more hands off. There's no
Mm.
finger pointing and all this other stuff, or reasons why they're not making the meetings or converting or whatever. It's always, sales always blames the marketing, marketing always blames sales and stuff like that. But there's a way to do it. And so selecting the right client is a reflection of having the right services.
Troy, I want to do another hour with you. I feel like we went longer than planned, but I told you about it. I moved an appointment to make this possible because this was so important to me. But I got to
Thank
jump
you.
on another call in like 3 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
So
Well, we'll
tell
drop off right now.
tell people how to love on this show, support Troy. Like, I appreciate you having me on the Troy show, man. You're not boring
Thanks.
at all. I appreciate you.
Yeah, it's a misnomer. All right. Thank you, Ben. Have an awesome day. And when you get a chance, I'll plug in your LinkedIn profile in the chat to let them know that how to reach out to you. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And then have an awesome rest of your day and a meeting coming up.
Yeah,
Thank you.
listen, send me a DM saying that you came from here and send Troy a DM saying, I appreciate you. Or if you came from my network, do the same thing. DM both of us. Peace. Appreciate everybody today.
All
Thanks,
right.
Troy.
Bye bye.
Bye.